myths about life and death, and left behind mysteries that still puzzle scientists today. The story of ancient Egypt is not just a story of kings and monuments, it is a story of innovation, survival, power, and a deep connection between humans, nature, and the unknown. At the heart of this civilization was the Nile River, the lifeline of Egypt. Every year, the Nile would flood, bringing rich soil that transformed the dry land into fertile fields, allowing agriculture to flourish. Without the Nile, there would be no Egypt. The ancient Egyptians understood this perfectly, and they built their entire civilization around it. Farming, transportation, trade, and daily life all depended on this powerful river. But Egypt was more than just agriculture, it was a highly organized society. At the top stood the Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, believed to be a living god. The Pharaoh was not just a king, he was seen as a divine figure, chosen to maintain order, balance, and harmony in the world, a concept known as Ma'at. Ma'at represented truth, justice, and cosmic balance, and it was the Pharaoh's duty to protect it. Below the Pharaoh, there were priests, nobles, scribes, soldiers, and workers, each playing a role in maintaining the strength of the civilization. Scribes were especially important, they were the only ones who could read and write, using a complex system known as hieroglyphics. These symbols were used to record history, religion, laws, and daily life, preserving knowledge for future generations. Religion played a central role in ancient Egyptian life. The Egyptians believed in many gods, each representing different aspects of nature and existence. There was Ra, the sun god, who traveled across the sky each day, bringing light and life. There was Osiris, the god of the afterlife, who ruled over the world of the dead. And Isis, the goddess of magic and motherhood, known for her wisdom and power. But perhaps the most fascinating belief of the ancient Egyptians was their view of the afterlife. They believed that life did not end with death, but continued in another world. This belief led to one of the most famous practices in history, mummification. The body had to be preserved, because the soul would return to it in the afterlife. The process of mummification was complex and detailed, involving the removal of organs, drying the body, and wrapping it in linen. This ensured that the body would remain intact for eternity. The dead were buried with treasures, food, and personal belongings, everything they would need in the afterlife. The pyramids, one of the greatest achievements of ancient Egypt, were built as tombs for the pharaohs. These massive structures, built with incredible precision, still stand today as a testament to human ingenuity. The most famous of them, the Great Pyramid of Giza, continues to amaze the world. Even with modern technology, it is still difficult to fully understand how they were built. But the pyramids were not just tombs, they were symbols of power, eternity, and the connection between heaven and earth. Ancient Egypt was also a center of knowledge and innovation. The Egyptians made significant advancements in mathematics, medicine, and engineering. They developed techniques for surgery, created medicines from natural ingredients, and built complex structures that have survived for thousands of years. Their understanding of astronomy allowed them to create calendars, helping them predict the flooding of the Nile. This knowledge was essential for agriculture and survival. Trade also played an important role in Egyptian civilization. Egypt traded gold, papyrus, grain, and other goods with neighboring regions, creating a network of economic connections. But like all great civilizations, Egypt faced challenges. There were periods of conflict, invasion, and decline. Foreign powers, such as the Hyksos and later the Persians, Greeks, and Romans, took control of Egypt. Despite this, the legacy of ancient Egypt never disappeared. Its influence spread across the world, inspiring art, architecture, religion, and culture. Today, when we look at the pyramids, temples, and artifacts, we are not just looking at history. We are looking at the story of human ambition, creativity, and the desire to understand life, and what comes after. Ancient Egypt teaches us that civilizations are not built overnight, they are the result of generations of knowledge, effort, and belief. And perhaps the greatest mystery of all is not how they built the pyramids, but how a civilization so ancient continues to inspire the world today. But the story of ancient Egypt does not end with its monuments or its rulers, because behind every stone, behind every temple, there were people, ordinary individuals, who lived, worked, dreamed, and struggled to survive in one of the most fascinating civilizations in history. Daily life in ancient Egypt was both simple and complex at the same time. Most people were farmers, working along the Nile, planting crops like wheat and barley, relying completely on the rhythm of the river. When the Nile flooded, they planted; when the waters receded, they harvested. This cycle defined their entire existence. Their homes were made of mud bricks, designed to protect them from the intense heat of the desert. Inside, life was centered around family, food, and community. Children played simple games, learned basic skills, and helped their families from a young age. Women in ancient Egypt had more rights than in many other ancient civilizations. They could own property, run businesses, and even inherit wealth. Some women even rose to power, like Hatshepsut, one of the most successful female pharaohs in history. She ruled Egypt with strength and intelligence, leading trade expeditions and building impressive monuments. Another powerful figure was Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt. Known for her intelligence, charm, and political skill, she played a crucial role in the final chapter of ancient Egyptian history. Her alliances with powerful Roman leaders, and her tragic end, marked the fall of Egypt as an independent civilization. Education in ancient Egypt was limited, but highly valued. Only a small group of people, mainly scribes, received formal education. They learned to write, calculate, and record information. Their work ensured that knowledge, history, and culture were preserved. Art and architecture were also essential parts of Egyptian life. Temples were built to honor the gods, decorated with carvings and paintings that told stories of power, devotion, and eternity. Statues of gods and pharaohs were created to symbolize strength and divine authority. The Egyptians believed that art had a purpose. It was not just decoration, it was a way to connect with the spiritual world. Music and entertainment were also present in daily life. People enjoyed dancing, playing instruments, and celebrating festivals. These moments of joy balanced the hard work and strict structure of their society. But despite their achievements, the ancient Egyptians were deeply aware of one thing. Life was temporary. This is why their focus on the afterlife was so strong. They believed that what you did in life would determine your fate after death. The heart of the deceased would be weighed against the feather of Ma'ah. If it was pure, the soul would enter paradise. If not, it would face destruction. This belief created a society that valued order, morality, and responsibility. However, no civilization lasts forever. Over time, internal struggles, economic problems, and external invasions weakened Egypt. The once powerful empire began to decline. The arrival of Alexander the Great marked a turning point. After his conquest, Egypt became part of the Greek world. Later, it fell under Roman control. And with that, the era of ancient Egyptian civilization came to an end. But its legacy did not disappear. Even today, thousands of years later, the world is still fascinated by ancient Egypt. Scientists continue to study its secrets, explorers search for hidden tombs, and historians try to understand how such a civilization achieved so much with limited technology. The pyramids still stand, silent, powerful, and mysterious. The temples still tell stories carved in stone. The mummies still carry secrets of the past. And the Nile still flows, just as it did thousands of years ago. Ancient Egypt reminds us that greatness is not just about power, or or monuments. It is about vision, belief, and the ability to build something that lasts beyond time. A civilization that understood the balance between life and death, order and chaos, human and divine. And perhaps that is why, even after thousands of years, ancient Egypt still feels alive. And yet, even after everything we know about ancient Egypt, there are still mysteries that remain unsolved, questions that continue to challenge historians, archaeologists, and scientists to this very day. One of the greatest mysteries is how the pyramids were truly built. Massive stone blocks, some weighing several tons, were transported and placed with incredible precision. Without modern machines, without advanced tools, and yet, the results were almost perfect. Some theories suggest ramps, others suggest advanced engineering techniques, and some even believe there is knowledge we have not yet discovered. But the truth is, no one knows for sure. And that uncertainty is what makes ancient Egypt even more fascinating. Their mystery lies within the tombs of the pharaohs. Many tombs were hidden deep beneath the ground, filled with treasures, statues, and inscriptions. But some were never found. Legends speak of lost tombs, filled with unimaginable riches, waiting to be discovered. It was said, suffered strange illnesses, accidents, and even death. Was it a curse, or simply coincidence? No one see even today. Explorers continue to search the sands of Egypt, hoping to uncover secrets buried for thousands of years. Then there is the famous curse of the Pharaohs. Stories began to spread after the discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb. Those who entered the tomb, and say for sure. But the legend lives on, adding another layer of mystery to an already incredible civilization. The technology of ancient Egypt is also something that continues to amaze researchers. Their ability to align the pyramids with the stars, their understanding of geometry, and their advanced construction methods suggest a level of knowledge that was far ahead of its time. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, is aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal directions. How did they achieve this level of precision without modern instruments? It remains one of the greatest puzzles in human history. Ancient Egyptian medicine was also surprisingly advanced. They performed surgeries, treated injuries, and used natural remedies for various illnesses. Medical papyri discovered over the years show detailed knowledge of the human body, including the heart, bones, and even the brain. While some of their methods were based on belief and religion, others were based on observation and experience. This combination of science and spirituality defined much of their culture. But perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of ancient Egypt was their relationship with time. The Egyptians did not see time as we do today. For them, time was cyclical, connected to the rising and setting of the sun, the flooding of the Nile, and the eternal journey of the soul. This belief in cycles influenced everything, from their calendar, to their architecture, to their understanding of life and death. Their monuments were not just built for the present, but for eternity. They wanted to be remembered, to exist beyond time, to leave a mark that would never fade. And in many ways, they succeeded. Because here we are, thousands of years later, still talking about them, still trying to understand them, still fascinated by their world. Ancient Egypt also played a major role in shaping future civilizations. The Greeks, and later the Romans, were heavily influenced by Egyptian culture, knowledge, and even beyond the monuments, beyond the myths, and beyond the mysteries, there is something even deeper that makes ancient Egypt one of the most fascinating civilizations in human history. It is the way they understood existence itself. The ancient Egyptians did not see life as a random event, or a temporary experience. For them, life was part of a much larger journey, a journey that continued even after death. They believed that every human being was made up of multiple parts, the body, the soul, and the spirit. The Ka represented life force. The Ba represented personality and individuality. And the Ak was the transformed spirit that lived on in the afterlife. This complex understanding of the human soul influenced everything they did. It shaped their rituals, their architecture, and even their daily actions. They believed that every choice mattered, every action had consequences, and every person was responsible for maintaining balance in the universe. This idea of balance, Ma'a, was not just a concept for kings or priests. It was something that applied to everyone. Farmers, workers, merchants, and rulers alike. Everyone had a role to play in maintaining order in the world. And when that balance was broken, chaos followed. This belief system created a society that valued discipline, structure, and responsibility. But it also created pressure. Because the fear of judgment after death was always present. The idea that your heart would be weighed, that your actions would be judged, and that your fate would be decided forever, was something that influenced how people lived their lives every single day. And yet, despite this seriousness, there was also beauty in their culture. Their art was not just symbolic, it was precise, intentional, and deeply meaningful. The way figures were drawn, the way colors were used, the way scenes were organized, all followed strict rules. Nothing was random, everything had purpose. Their temples were designed not just as places of worship, but as connections between the human world and the divine. Walking through an Egyptian temple was meant to feel like entering another realm. Dark halls, massive columns, towering statues, all designed to create a sense of awe and connection to something greater. Even the smallest details had meaning. The direction of the buildings, the placement of statues, the carvings on the walls. Everything was aligned with their beliefs about the universe. But perhaps one of the most powerful aspects of ancient Egyptian civilization was their ability to endure. For over 3,000 years, Egypt remained one of the most stable civilizations in history. While other civilizations rose and fell quickly, Egypt continued, adapting, evolving, and surviving through centuries of change. This stability was not accidental. It was the result of strong leadership, organized systems, and deeply rooted beliefs. But even the strongest systems eventually face challenges. Climate changes, shifts in the Nile's flooding patterns, economic struggles, and internal conflicts all contributed to weakening the civilization. As power shifted and external forces grew stronger, Egypt became vulnerable, and slowly, the control of Egypt passed into the hands of others. Yet even in decline, Egypt never truly disappeared. Its identity, its culture, and its legacy remained. And perhaps that is what makes it so unique. Because while many civilizations are forgotten, Egypt is remembered, not just as a place, but as a symbol of mystery, power, and human achievement. Even today, people from all over the world travel to Egypt, not just to see the pyramids, but to feel something. To stand in front of structures built thousands of years ago and realize that humans, just like us, created this with limited tools, but unlimited vision. And that realization changes something. And yet, the deeper we explore ancient Egypt, the more we realize that this civilization was not only about what they built, but about how they thought. Because behind every pyramid, every temple, every inscription, there was a way of thinking that was far ahead of its time. The Egyptians believed that knowledge was power, but also responsibility. This is why priests held such an important position in society. They were not just religious figures, they were scholars, astronomers, healers, and advisors to the pharaoh. They studied the stars, tracked the movement of the sun, and used this knowledge to guide agriculture, rituals, and even political decisions. The sky, for them, was not just something to look at. It was a map, a guide, and a connection to the divine. They believed that the gods lived among the stars, and that the pharaoh, after death, would join them. This is why many pyramids and temples were aligned with specific stars and constellations. Because for the Egyptians, death was not an end. It was a transformation, and this belief changed everything. It influenced how they built, how they lived, and how they prepared for what came next. Even their writing system, hieroglyphics, was more than just a form of communication. It was considered sacred. Each symbol carried meaning, not just linguistically, but spiritually. Writing was seen as a way to give life to ideas, to preserve them, and to connect the physical world with the spiritual one. This is why many tombs were filled with texts, spells, and prayers. To guide the soul, protect it, and ensure its safe journey into the afterlife. But while their beliefs were deeply spiritual, their achievements were also incredibly practical. The Egyptians developed advanced techniques in construction, engineering, and organization. They understood how to manage large groups of workers, how to transport heavy materials, and how to plan projects that could take decades to complete. This level of organization required not only skill, but vision. A vision that extended beyond a single lifetime. Because many of these projects, especially the pyramids, were started long before they were completed. This means that those who began them knew they might never see the final result. And yet, they continued. They built for the future. They built for eternity. And that idea is something we rarely see today. In a world focused on speed and immediate results, the ancient Egyptians remind us of the power of patience, long-term thinking, and purpose. But like all civilizations, Egypt was not without its flaws. Power struggles, corruption, and inequality existed. While the pharaoh and nobles lived in luxury, many workers lived simple and difficult lives. Although they were not slaves in the way many people imagine, their work was still demanding and often dangerous. And yet, there was pride in what they built, a sense of contribution to something greater than themselves. Because in their eyes, they were not just building structures, they were building history. They were creating something that would outlive them. And in doing so, they became part of something eternal. Another fascinating aspect of ancient Egypt was their relationship with nature. They respected it, feared it, and depended on it. The Nile was not just a river, it was a symbol of life. The desert, though harsh, was seen as a place of protection, guarding Egypt from invaders. Animals were also deeply connected to their beliefs. Many gods were represented with animal features, symbolizing strength, wisdom, or protection. The falcon, the jackal, the cat, each had meaning, each had a role. This connection between humans, animals, and nature created a balanced worldview. One that recognized